Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Deva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vedyat Ravidam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Yata Sarvani Bhutani Pratibhanti Sthitani Cha Yatraivo Pashamam Yanti Tasmai Satyatmane Namaha. So where are we in our text, and do we have Ganesh online?
Yeah, I'm here, Jim.
Thank you. Mark, do you have it marked where we are?
Chapter 9, verse 40-41.
Chapter 9, verse 40-41. And I have extra text if you want one, Lloyd. Will you help us out, please, Ganesh?
Yeah, I'm just finding it. Verse 41, correct?
40-41. I think they're
Yeah,
two
it's a
together.
combination 40-41.
Agnyasya arghaprabudhasya sarvam brahmeti yo vadet mahana rakajaleshu tatena viniyojitah. Whoever tells one who is ignorant or half awake that all is Brahman, the Supreme Spirit, he, the ignorant one, is disposed off to the great web of hell by him.
Yes. So this is an important part of the teaching. It echoes what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. We do not tell the ignorant or even the half awake. Don't worry, it's all Brahman. You have no problems. It doesn't do them any good. All they do is use that as more fuel to feel crappy about themselves. So one of the things, if you have the inclination to want to share this knowledge with others, to teach, you must have some awareness pedagogically how and where to meet people where they are. So if a person is totally depressed and they are suicidal, you don't give them Mandukya Upanishad. You know, they don't get it. Likewise, some of us are studying Ashtavakra Gita, where at the end of the first chapter, Ashtavakra says, why are you meditating? Who's trying to get something? Both bondage and enlightenment are illusory. And that's true. But if you give that teaching to someone too soon, they are likely then to rationalize their own ego. They become abusive to people. They can get caught up in addiction or alcoholism, have bad behavior, and inside they're saying, it's all an illusion. It doesn't matter. It's your problem. And all they do is hurt people. And that's not freedom for anyone. So, if you want a good exercise in pedagogy, how to share this teaching with others, I recommend that you return to Viveka Chudamani. Now, many of us have studied it once, some of us twice, but my suspicion is you studied it from the viewpoint of the student. Is that right? Mm-hmm. What I would recommend is that you now revise it, go study it again to see how Shankara moves the student's mind. And I'll briefly summarize it. In the beginning, Shankara allows the student to be completely identified with the body. What, Shankara? Yes. He talks about the glories of a human birth, how you only get a human birth after millions of lifetimes being a creepy crawly and a lion, a tiger, and bear, etc. Then once having gained a human birth, after many lifetimes lived intelligently, your mind may eventually be open to the teaching of truth, and you can have the Guru show up. So what does that mean? If we meet people who are just beginning the path, we give them things like the yamas and niyamas from Raja Yoga, moral precepts. You might give them asana, maybe a little pranayama. We might encourage them to go to kirtan, love the Lord, worship the Lord. If you're a Hindu, do puja. If you're a Westerner, go to church. Isn't that dualistic, Jim? Yes, it's supposed to be. That's the appropriate teaching for someone at that level. Then there's this short section on the approach to the Guru. Oh, Guruji, I'm being roasted in the fires of hell, within and without. Save me with a nectarine glance. Remember that section? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very dualistic. Then he slips us into adhikari, becoming a fit student. What he's done there is shift from identification with the body to identification with the subtle body. He doesn't tell us that's what he's doing. But in the qualifications of a fit student, viveka, vairagya, samadhi, guna, mumukshutva, is it the body that does these things? Or are these qualities of head and heart? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Did you say yes?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the subtle body.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, he's not saying do this yoga posture, eat this food. That's at the level of the physical. He's now, and we spend quite a bit of time working on the subtle body. So you begin to acquire chitta shuddhi, purity of mind. Then he shifts us once more into subject-object discrimination. Long section. Discrimination between the subject and all the objects, between the self and the not self. And he does it twice. He does it once using the map of Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, gross body, subtle body, causal body. But he does it again with the Panchakosha. Annamaya Kosha, food sheath, Pranamaya Kosha, vital air sheath, Manomaya Kosha, the mind, mental sheath, Vijnanamaya Kosha, intellectual sheath. And then finally, he gives us a long description of what the ego is. Fascinating section. And then what vasanas are. Mind you, all the way on through, he's continuing to stress vairagya. Give up attachment to the objects of the senses. Avoid them like poison. The person who stays attached to the objects of the senses is like someone who's grabbing a crocodile thinking it's a harmless log. Those objects of the senses. Now he's going to change all that later. And at the acme of that section, I love to use that word. The Shisha says, oh, Guruji, after having negated the knowable, there's nothing left. By what instrument am I to realize the self? And the Guru says, clever are you in your capacity to discriminate. Know the self to be that by which everything is known. But itself can never be known as an object. Yet it is not unknown. And he says, realize this in an extremely subtle intellect. By that point, we're about 3/4 of the way through the book. Now he shifts again. We've been talking about the self and the not self. And he says, essentially, well, we lied. There is no not self. What we've been calling the not self is actually Brahman. And then he teaches us how to see the self in and through all the objects of the senses. There are these wonderful verses of totally introverting that attentive faculty, reining in the extroversion of the mind. Beautiful verses that all end with the same refrain. Meditate on this in your mind. Then he goes on even further. In the end, just like all the scriptures, there is no bondage for the self. There is no liberation for the self. The equipment is illusory and unreal, like a dream. The scriptures aren't real. The guru isn't real. The shishya isn't real. Only the self. Long section on samadhi. Notice he doesn't talk about samadhi in the beginning of the book. I could go on and on, but you can see that there's a progression. And if you follow what Shankara suggests, idiot in, jnani out. It's powerful. But there are saints who had spontaneous realizations, perhaps, very young, people like Krishnamurti, and he would yell at people from the stage, "Can't you see? Can't you see?" "No, we can't." He never came down from the absolute to give people a process by which to get there. Very important point. Now, for people with the most subtle minds, they can do it in an hour or so. For most of us, it'll take 2-3 years of serious sadhana to get rooted in the sound. Then the teacher gives us the capstone teaching. Mind isn't real. Nothing in the phenomenal world is real. Yet it's all consciousness. Any questions about this? So what you and I need to do, even if we're just sharing with another person, is intuit what I call the set of the soul and meet people where they're at. Can we give them a suggestion, some advice that they can apply, that they can use to go from where they are to the next step? Any thoughts on this? And be wary of what I call the Vedanta logic loop. It's all an illusion. Doesn't matter what you do because it's all like a dream. There's no person there. So you might as well smoke dope and shoot heroin and rob a bank because it's all an illusion. And that's nonsense. It's liberty, not license. And there's a big difference. Especially when we get the teaching that the person of steady wisdom operates from intuition. I like to say the woman or man of knowledge is out of control. That doesn't mean they're operating from the tyranny of the reactive part of the mind. The raga and the dvesha, the inner 2-year-old. If you rationalize that, oh, I'm just operating from my intuition, punch, that's stupid. Any thoughts or questions about this? It's like the ballet dancer who struggles and works very hard to do a pirouette until she finds the center when there's no effort to do the pirouette. Did that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, next verse.
Avidyayaivotamaya swatmanashodhyamothaya vidyasa prapyate yadvat malena kshalyate malam. By the very illusion or ignorance of the highest kind, arising from the effort to extinguish one's own mind, that knowledge of the Supreme Spirit is obtained just as dirt is washed off by dirt. Note, any mental effort or imagination in the stage of spiritual practice, including concentration of various kinds, is illusory inasmuch as it veils the reality which is the nature of pure consciousness beyond thought. But such practice enables the aspirant to transcend the mind and be established in reality or pure existence consciousness bliss.
Yes, so this is what we call jnana abhyasa, the practice of knowledge. So in samadhi, there are no thoughts or practices, etc. But we need to practice so we can attain this purity of mind. Shankara uses the metaphor of going down to the river in the monsoon to get water. And the big jars of water have silt suspended in them. And so the ladies take the powder of the kataka nut. In modern times, they use alum. You put that in the jar, so the water is dirty, so what do? Add more dirt. But it's a special kind of dirt. It does something with the surface tension, and it gathers all the silt, and it sinks to the bottom. Then you can decant the water, and you get pure water. Modern day practice. So I did 2 loads of laundry this morning. So I needed to get the dirt out of my clothes. So first thing I did is put more dirt into the washing machine called detergent. But it's a special dirt. It's a dirt that in solution with water removes the other dirt. Both are washed away in the rinse cycle. So this is what you need to do, is be brainwashed. You have a dirty mind and you need to be brainwashed. So you use the cheer, the tide, to wash away the afflicting thoughts, the kleshas. With the jnana abhyasa, the practice of knowledge, discrimination, dispassion, shama, dhamma, uparati, titiksha, shraddha, samadhana, mumukshutva. Then we drop it all. Let it go. Next verse.
Kuto vidya cha jateti ramamastu vicharana imam katham maham hanmit Esha testu vicharana. From where was this ignorance produced? Let there not be such an investigation, Rama. How shall I destroy this ignorance? Let this be your investigation.
So, this is where yoga comes into tension with psychotherapy. In psychotherapy, one of the things we do is go causation hunting. Why am I depressed? Why do I get so angry in these situations? We go causation hunting. Oh, what I'm doing is being triggered by the trauma of my father or the abandonment I had from my mother, etc. And that may be of some value. But there was a saying that we had back in the 70s, understanding is the booby prize. I know why I'm a basket case, and I'll tell you all about the story, but I'm still a basket case. So yoga says at some point, we need to practice getting out of the mind. Causation hunting, why am I suffering, is not a fruitful question. How do I get out of it? The way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. The way to heal the mind is to see the fundamental unreality of the mind. The way to heal the mind is not let it habitually go down the rabbit holes of I, me, mine, poor little me. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. There's no magic bullet. This is tapas, turning the mind away and understanding why you have these habits doesn't make them go away. And this is where yoga parts from some schools of psychology. Any thoughts on this? And, once you've finished analyzing what happened in your family of origin, now you can do your prior lives.
Your what?
Prior lifetimes. There's no beginning to the chains of causation, is the point. But everything you need is right here. So-and-so got me so angry. You don't need to know why. What you need to do is tapas. Drop it. Let it go. Just don't do something. Sit there. Just don't do something. Stand there. Don't get caught up in the stories, the theme of the thinking. This is yoga's solution. And personally, I found it useful. Any thoughts on this? Now, you do need to make the unconscious conscious. If you find yourself acting out unconsciously, you aren't admitting to yourself that you're angry at your partner, and instead you slam his hand in the door. You're unwilling to admit that you're angry at a coworker, so you're chronically late to work. That's a different story. That's called being unconscious. So in meditation, and therapy can help in making the unconscious conscious. But that doesn't necessarily make those things go away. It just means now I have the awareness to begin to work on it. Anybody have thoughts on this?
Tim, I have a thought.
Please.
How does this work in like things like relationships? So I think one of the things I found is it's deeply unsatisfying to the other person to say, you know what, I think the solution, we just need to be more aware and things will get resolved over time. Like we've understood it. It's true, but it's deeply unsatisfying for the other person when I just say like, let's just uh, let things unfold. Now that we are aware, a solution will automatically emerge, or like things will get resolved over time.
Well, we're back to what we had before. If you've got a partner for whom that's a frustration or unsatisfying, you've got to meet people where they're at. So maybe in order to have harmony in the relationship, you need to process a feeling. Remember, you're talking to a brahmachari here who lives alone. So you probably know more on how to do this than I do. So what works for you? I'm very serious. Tell us.
I think I've found that it's actually, I mean, not only in like personal relationships, I think I've always come at it from like, let's not, but now that we are aware of it, it's going to get resolved. And it is true over the long term, things do get like resolved. But I think in the moment, it's very hard for like people to kind of accept it. So I'm only now like trying to come up with better ways of framing it so that it doesn't come across to comes across as inaction to the other person when it's actually not, when it's yeah. So I'm still kind of figuring it out.
Well, if I've got a particular klesha, if I've got a particular habit that's upsetting to the other person, there's a couple things I can do. I can basically let them deal with it, or I can say, you're right. What I'm doing is disrespectful or unconscious. I will do my best to work on it. And you have my permission to point it out when I do that. I'll try to do better. I mean, just because we're yogis doesn't mean we can't be jerks.
Yeah.
And actually, as a yogi, I've spent so many years in what Swamiji called self-unfoldment, the art of man-making. You can call it character building. I enjoy that process. I don't find it painful. I always find it humbling when, one of my character defects is right in my face and, oh, yep. I'll give you a real live example. I can have a tendency to be codependent. From my viewpoint, I think I'm being caring and concerned about another person. I have a friend who went through a health crisis. He had prostate cancer, and had it removed, and then he had all sorts of issues with his bladder and incontinence and stuff like that. And every time we'd get together, I'd ask him about it. From my viewpoint, I was being caring and concerned. He found it incredibly irritating. And he finally told me to stop it. Every time we get together, you're asking about my health. Stop it. Okay. I'll work on that. And from that point on, I never asked him about his health. I'll ask him how he is, and he can tell me what he wants.
Yeah.
But I guess I get smarmy and I'm not conscious of it. I think I'm being caring and concerned and loving. Other people interpret it differently.
Mm.
He told me what was off-putting to him, and I said, okay, you're right, I'll work on it. But I didn't defend, I didn't justify, I didn't rationalize, nor did I blow it off. I acknowledged the validity of his communication. And why not change my behavior?
Mm.
I don't know if that's useful.
Yeah, no, it's useful.
Anybody else?
Yeah, when especially in personal relationships, some triggers come around a lot, very often. So it's hard to, it just sometimes even seems to the other person. I mean, I think I can be better at actually just point blank saying, I'm working on it. But even when I do that, sometimes because the same things come up again, it just seems like there's no progress being made, which is strictly not true, actually. Just takes time.
Well, and why don't you share that with your partner?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm doing my best, and it isn't helpful when you keep criticizing.
Yeah. I'll try that.
I don't know. What I do say is, by and large, I don't trust recipes. Well, I'm going to use this in this kind of situation. I deeply trust people's intuition. And you'll find an answer in the end. Now, how long have you and your partner been together?
11 years?
Well, all I can say is, my brother and sister-in-law, they just celebrated 50 years of marriage. And one of the things that's very clear to both of them is you can't change the other person. I hear someone laughing.
Me.
How long have you and Lloyd been together?
20 years.
Okay, you got 9 more years before you figure that one out.
It doesn't mean you don't keep trying on both of us.
It was me, white man. But that's really what a lot of it is to mutually learn respect and tolerance and quit trying to change the other person.
Yeah.
If you're both somewhat on the path, I have found this the most useful. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the problem. Now, that doesn't mean the world and its people are oftentimes quite wrong. But if it irritates me, if it upsets me, I'm the one with the problem. Now, it becomes a challenge if your partner doesn't have the same worldview. If your partner has the worldview, I'm upset and it's something you did. I don't know. Sometimes it keeps shifting from issue to issue. I was working with another young man this past week, and he's moved in with a boyfriend. First time he's lived with a boyfriend. And they've only been living together a matter of months. And he's a good yogi. He's very conscious. And one of the things he's seen is, in his mind, he's very critical of his partner. And he sees that it's a parallel reflection of the way his mother treats his father. They've been married for decades, but she's always just low-level annoyed at him. And, you know, these things get passed on from generation to generation. So, you know, we talked about becoming causation hunting may not be valuable. Well, maybe sometimes it is. It didn't make it go away, but he got to see it. Oh my gosh, I'm becoming like my mother. Now he has some awareness to work on it and to understand that it isn't that his boyfriend is doing it all wrong. It's that he is a critical person. He's full of judgments. Just a little bit smarter, a little bit more superior.
Jim, there's something in this conversation so in the Gita, we talk about we have a duty that we're supposed to serve the community. There's things we're supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
Do we have a karmic duty on that level to try to improve ourselves, even though ultimately none of it's real? But is it still part of our duty to work on ourselves?
Well, I think so.
Okay.
First of all, we do it because it purifies the mind, which makes the mind fit for yoga. Because it is this negativity, the reactivity, the self-centeredness, and stuff like that, the selfishness, the fear, the anger. That's what keeps us from being aware of the bliss of our own self-nature. So we first do it so that we can revel in the self. But then again, I've been doing this for so damn long, I still work on stuff. I may have huge blind spots still. Nobody's come up and told me, you know, that this is absolutely annoying. Why don't you stop it, Jim? Lately, I'm sure it'll come, you know. And I may or may not work on it. Someone once told me that one of the last teachings of the Buddha was good manners are far superior to enlightenment. All right. Say that again. I'm not sure it's true, but I like it. This area said, good manners are far superior to enlightenment. Amen.
I guess you can be an enlightened jerk.
There are many of them.
Yeah.
Or people who think they're enlightened. But what the scriptures say is the person of steady wisdom. The world is not afraid of them, and they are not afraid of the world. One of the marks of a person of steady wisdom is they move through the world with humility and care and concern and love for other people. They don't go in needing to be the center of attention or having agendas or having control issues, all these sorts of things that irritate other people. Good discussion. Any other points? Swamiji had a terrible habit. He took snuff. It was gross. Just
Snuff.
gross. Snuff. And you know, he'd snot all the stuff, and you'd see these brown streaks on his orange hankies. It was just, and his mustache would be all brown. It was gross. And he just did it. He did not choose to change this habit. And when they would video him, you know, whenever he'd start, you can see he's getting ready to snuff, they turn to the BMI chart or turn to a potted plant. You know, there was never saw him doing stuff on camera.
Oh
It was
my
so fun.
gosh, that's
And then at
hysterical.
some point, the doc said, "You need to stop this." So he stopped doing stuff. You know, when there was a good reason to do it, he stopped.
Something that I notice is that if someone's unhappy with me, if I can just take the perspective of regardless of whether I agree or not, that's their perspective. And
Yes,
if I can do that,
depersonalize. Yeah.
it opens up and there's nothing to defend or protect.
So another good tool. All criticism is nothing but projection, and all criticism is valid.
Mhm.
You got to hold that paradox. Let me say that again. All criticism is nothing but projection. If I'm mad at you, I have the problem. It's not about you. I'm projecting some issue onto you. So if someone's mad at you or irritated at you or critical of you, it's their issue. But the other question is, why did they aim it at me and not the next guy? Is there something I need to look at? And it may be a valid observation, and it may not be. Give you a case in point, real life experience. So I was asked to speak at an AA meeting a week ago, right on the spot. So I got up there and I did my little shtick, and there was a guy there, and for some reason, he just does not like me. This guy has been, you know, we've been kind of in circles that barely overlap for decades. And there's something about me that just irritates him. So he's sitting there, and then when it came time for the sharing, he said, "Well, Jim, I really don't know what you said because it was so boring I fell asleep."
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe it was, you know, I could be awfully repetitive.
It was boring to him.
But, you know, I don't personalize it. I don't take it
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And what do? You know, return good for evil. You know, love this man. I don't know what it is in his life that makes him so unhappy. I'm not the only one he's annoyed by. He's just annoyed by life. But you know, I have compassion for that. There's a word in the English language which we misinterpret now, and that's the word pity. The word pity today has connotations of condescension.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
superiority.
pitiful.
Yeah.
That's not its dictionary meaning. You look up pity in the dictionary, and it says genuine sorrow at the misfortune of others.
Oh.
That's what pity means.
Genuine sorrow.
At the misfortune of others.
So genuine for that person, not for them.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yes, so when I see another person suffering, I have compassion. I'm sorry you're so sorry. You're having such a bad time. Now, what do we do from that point? If you are codependent, you're going to try to fix them. They may not want it. What was the thing that Susali gave us that I just love? It's an Al-Anon slogan. Unsolicited advice is a form of criticism. I would modify it. I would say unsolicited advice is frequently interpreted as a form of criticism. Well, it's a good one. It's a
Yeah.
good one. So
Yeah.
how we hold space around those issues. And there are no set things. But we want to, we can only do our own yoga. We can't do another person's yoga. They may not believe that, though. We're back to what Ganesh was talking about. You may have someone in your life who is absolutely convinced you're their problem. Another fellow I'm working with, and he's got this incredible challenge at work. He manages 3 people. And months ago, finally, it came out, one of his subordinates came to him and says, I hate you. And I don't even know why I hate you, but I hate you.
Wow.
Bingo.
Nice.
You know, and what do you do with something like that?
Yeah, because there's something to be done. He's saying, I hate you
Yeah.
and I don't know why. Wow. Ooh.
But it's caused a lot of problems because there's been a lot of smarmy and colluding with other employees and all sorts of manipulative, really. But the point is, you know, this guy has some issue going on, which he's aiming at my friend,
Projecting onto him.
and he can't see it. So what do you do? What do you do? You know, some of these things, there may not be a solution other than nothing in this world is important enough for me to lose my peace of mind. All
Excuse me.
hold on to that. No person, no job, no politics, no economy, no nothing is important enough for me to lose my peace of mind. Make it your most prized possession. And yet most of us will squander it on a scowl or an unkind word.
Excuse me.
Want some water? All right, next verse.
Yeah, what I find interesting is like it's interesting how it feels like my mind always has an opinion on everything. It's just incredibly amazing to watch. And what I find is paradoxically, the more comfortable I am, I don't know the right way to say it, the more comfortable I am with who I am, I suppose, the less, the easier it is to accept whatever other people's opinions are. It doesn't even, it's fine. Like whatever they want to think is just totally fine.
Well, and what I do is, you know, here's another one of those slogans. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one and they usually stink. But the yogi doesn't believe his own mind. Of course, I've got an opinion, but it's not true. Do not mistake opinion or certainty for truth. And always try to see the other person's viewpoint. Always. I've got a couple people in my life, for example, who voted for Donald Trump. I'm a progressive, I'm a bleeding heart liberal. That's the way I run. But my yoga is to listen to these people, to dialogue with them, to not get affected by personal attacks. You've got Trump derangement syndrome, you know. Okay, go through. But let's you know, talk about empirical facts at the worldly level, and let's have. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Let's be in dialogue. Maybe you're right. Help me see it your way. You know, and I find that first of all, it's an interesting process. I don't know if that helps at all, but that's what I do.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's yeah, some interesting strategies, lots of interesting strategies in there.
Okay, next verse.
Astam gatayam ksheenayam asyam न्यास्यसि राघव यतेषा यया चैषा यथा नष्टेत्यखण्डितं किञ्चित् शुभितरूपा सा चिच्छक्तिः चिन्महार्णवे. Raghava, when this ignorance has been removed and destroyed, you will know in entirety from whence was this born, by whom was this produced, and how was this destroyed. In the great ocean of consciousness, that power or energy of consciousness appears to be a little agitated.
So it's got spunda, it vibrates, meaning the entire world comes about by the sankalpa of the infinite, and at least in the realm of human affair. Activity is prompted by desire, most of which is ego prompted in most people.
I didn't understand what you said before that.
Action is prompted by desire. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
Because you want to do it. And most of those actions are ego prompted, meaning I'm going to get what I want. For the yogi, we endeavor to let go of that personal sense of agency. I am not the doer.
Wow.
To use a Christian image, the Master Jesus said, I of myself do no thing, it is the Father within that doeth the work. Turn your will and your life over to the care of God. Father Michael Judge, who was the Franciscan priest who was the chaplain to the New York City Fire Department, and he was the first recorded death on 9/11. He had a prayer that I just love. God, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say, and keep me out of your way. Wonderful prayer.
Yeah.
Wonderful prayer. All right. Next one.
विकल्पकलति विकल्पकलिताकारं देशकालक्रियास्पदं चितोरूपं महाबाहो क्षेत्रज्ञ इति कथ्यते. Long-armed one. I don't know if it's I would say mighty armed one. Rama. The state or condition of consciousness which is gathered or obtained, a form due to ignorance or error, and which is the seed of place, time, and action, is called the knower of the field. That is the individual soul which experiences the body.
So the way to understand this is to go to the dream state. You are the God of your dream. If you thoroughly understand the dream state and how it comes about, this waking state reality becomes much clearer. In the dream state, first, I fall asleep. Falling asleep can be said to be the non-apprehension of myself as the waker. It is pure ignorance. It is avarana shakti, the veiling power. Then comes the vikshepa shakti, the projecting power, the spanda, the agitation of the mind. And what does it produce? First, the dream ego identified with a dream body. Note that the dream body is produced as imagination. It just doesn't seem like it to the dreamer. And that same mind then projects a world of name and form outside, which the dreamer thinks is separate from me. And I have thoughts and feelings which are inside. And I have no wing. I have seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, feeling, thinking in the dream. But all of it is just my mind, as it were, being shattered or refracted or splintered into this triple factor. This is no different. If you think you're a person, you have that jiva bhavana, I have the feeling, I'm Jim, I'm this body. You're sound asleep spiritually. And along with that first idea, jiva bhavana, you see a phenomenal world. And you do not think the phenomenal world is mithya, illusion, or it's all God. You think that people, places, things, and conditions are real and they're separate from me. And Wendy is lovable and Mike's a jerk. That's what we do. And there's the element of kartavya, struggle. It's illusion. It's a hallucination. It's like a dream. It's not real. Don't take it seriously. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. Stop. Or as Swamiji used to say, shut up and get out. He didn't mean leave the satsang hall. Thin the mind, stop the mind. Notice the knower and see if you can find a person there. Nope. It's just witnessing consciousness. Now, if you're working in the world, if you're in a relationship with someone who's not a yogi, or maybe a beginner yogi, what must we do? Become a good actor. You may have to play at being a person. You know it's not real. But in order not to upset the minds of others, you may need to act as if you were a person. Did that make sense?
Yeah. You know, Jim, sometimes I used to be afraid coming back to your.
Coming back here?
Yeah, with you. Yeah. Because it seemed to be very hard to get it all in my head. And but it's changed now. Not the same. But it's different. Thank you.
All his grace.
Yeah.
Not mine.
Whatever.
and your tapas, your continued practice.
Yes.
But you can ask Ganesh. I say the same damn things over and
Same.
over again.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
You got me. I forget about. Last night was at the lodge, and
Uh-huh.
anyway, I had something I'm supposed to do, read something that I wrote that they wanted me to do. Anyway, and I didn't do it very well, and it just didn't work, and I'm having a little trouble with my, with that now, doing some medication and all this stuff. It's working better, but it's not what I'm good at yet now. I used to be very good at that. And so here I am doing this stuff with all these wet men, and I didn't do so well. So a guy comes up to me, and so I stopped. Wait a minute, and I said, "I'm not doing so well. Would you please take it over for me?" And he said, "Yeah," and it went well. And so the guy comes up later, who's not a very nice guy, he's an old, Anyway, and he came over and said, "Good, you did that, because you stank last week. It was shit. I hated it. And what I said was, "Yeah, you're right. Thanks. I'm glad I did that. And I'm glad you told me." And he said, "Yeah, I told him about what's going on with me." And we ended up hugging each other. And this guy, I don't think I've ever shaken his hand in many years. And so something else happened. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I let it, and I felt much better. I felt bad that I didn't do it as well as I used to. But,
Welcome to the world of aging.
yes, sir.
It's not for sissies.
Yeah. Never know. To a couple of years ago, a year or two ago, to do that.
Well, you're still a youngster,
Yes.
but don't worry, dear. It gets worse.
Oh, thank you, Dad. No, but still, it's
So it's renunciation at gunpoint.
yeah.
That's what it is. You let stuff
Go
go.
ahead.
You let stuff go. I get it. I so get it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you, sir.
All right. One more and we'll stop. No, this is a good place. We'll stop here. We'll stop here. We got a couple of minutes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat.